All right, we're going to start the conversations dealing with data visualization. And these may be lengthy in overall expanse because data visualization is really being able to make sense of the data that we have and represent it in a way that decision makers can make a decision in fractions of a second. And it's kind of like the gas gauge scenario where when you know that your gas gauge is on empty, the decision you need to make is you need to get gas. So that's a decision that you make very easily by simply looking at the gas gauge of your car. So data visualization has a very important role. Data visualization is not new, and there's argument that this chart here was one of the first data visualizations that has occurred. This is very popular. If you get into data analytics and data visualization, you'll see this. But this is from William Playfair. And the whole idea is that William Playfair had this way of charting data. And this is at the bottom, you can see that this is the years in time. And this is starting in the 1700s. And he charted this line here, which is the line of imports coming into England. And what he was saying is that an earlier, the amount of exports in the earlier 1700s was less than the amount of imports. But here, roughly around 1755, there was more exports than imports. So the whole idea is that you want to be able to create an economy that you have more exports here than imports. And by visualizing the data in this fashion, that William Playfair was able to identify at this point in time is when that had changed for England. And this is dealing with exports and imports, by the way, from Denmark and Norway to England. So this was a way of simply identifying the data. And by looking at it, you can look at this moment in time right here and seeing that this is when trade against Denmark or with Denmark and Norway had changed in balance of favor for England. So very powerful tool, and it's all because of data visualization. So one of the most important things to be concerned with when it comes to data visualization is this whole idea about what's your point. A lot of times in a data visualization scenario, you want to be asking yourself this question every single time. So here's an example I have from a textbook by Evergreen. And here, what is the point of this particular data visualization? This was a survey done that asked several questions, and it measures what students think they do and what parents think their children or those students do. So what we're starting to find out is that there's differences in what parents think their students do, and then also students themselves, what they think they do in regards to each of the questions. So the question about what's your point applies to this graphic. So what do we really want to say? When you look at this data visualization, what we can see is that for the most part, students have a more favorable view than their parents about almost every topic, with one exception, and that's whether or not they will attend college. But can you tell that without going through each of the questions and looking at them with scrutiny? It's very difficult to pull that out. So what we can do is improve the data visualization and use a different type of graphic. And this is a slope line, and we can see that in all areas with parents on the left and students on the right, in all areas based on the slope, everything is in favor or an improvement for the student side based on the slope, with one exception, right? And that exception is this line right here, right? And that's showing that there's a major decline in difference of college attendance between students, what the students think and what their parents think. Now, the real question, though, is this the story that we really want to tell? right? So that could be the story that we might want to say, but then wouldn't it be simple just to do something like this? If the story we want to say is that only 58% of students expect to go to college, maybe this is a better way of representing our data. So data visualizations are not always, let me rephrase that. Data visualizations are there to add clarity to our storytelling. So data visualizations can be in different forms, like this one previous or the one previous, and they can be meaningful. But as people that are representing our data, we have to get down to the basic simple point of what is the story? Let's add clarity to it, and let's represent it in a very easy to understand way. Now, side note, I'm going to make comments about pie charts throughout our discussions about data visualizations. There are good times and bad times to use pie charts. I'm going to say this is one of the few times it's okay to use a pie chart. And the reason is because we have two numbers. We have 58% of students that expect to go to college, and then the remaining 42% of students that expect not to go to college. So we're comparing two numbers here, the ones that expect to go to college and the ones that don't expect to go to college. It works. Pie charts work when you're comparing two numbers. However, they don't always work, and we'll talk about those in greater detail. So data visualizations can be harmful, by the way. Let's take a look at this. Why is this harmful? Well, one of the things to point out here is that the data is correct, right? We have data here that says that consumers normally pay $7.92, right? Roughly about right here, for their energy per month. Using IGS energy, however, they can reduce it down to $6.19. Now, the reason why this is harmful is because a lot of times when people look at a scale on the left-hand side, they usually assume it starts at 0. So this graphic alone gives us the story that there is a lot of savings here. And if you look at this, this would be more than 50%. I would dare say this is appearing as though it's like 70% of savings by comparing this amount to this amount, right? But in reality, if we were to draw that and we had, $8 of savings here and then just a little less, $6, whatnot, we would see that that difference is not 70%, but maybe closer to like 20%. Okay. So this is a little misleading, or not necessarily misleading, but it misrepresents the actual data because of humans' instinct to always assume that the bottom is at 0. All right, let me show you one more. All right, this is a very important visualization. And I'm actually going to leave this discussion right here. And I'm going to have you look at this visualization for a while. And in the next video, we're going to pick up what's going on here. But let's describe it briefly. So this is real data, by the way. This is gun deaths in Florida. It was by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. This was published by Reuters. Right? And what it's saying is that there's a moment in time in 2005 when Florida enacted Stand Your Ground law. All right. So at first glance, what does that tell you? With all that data, go ahead and take a look at this, and we'll pick this up in our next video.